Mr. President, we thank ASG, Mr. Khaled Kiari, as well as the acting ASG for Humanitarian Affairs and Deputy Emergency Relief Coordinator, Mr. Indrika Ratwata, for their briefings. The problem raised by the Permanent Representative of Yemen in his 6th July letter is a symptom of the unresolved conflict in Yemen. Genuinely active actions are overdue, actions which would allow for the rebuilding of trust between the parties, which would allow us to resolve pressing humanitarian issues, including the lifting of the air and sea blockade. It's an open secret that Sana'a Airport is of utmost importance for the residents of the densely populated provinces of Yemen. If we take Sana'a and its outskirts alone, it is home to roughly 10% of the population of Yemen. An airport that functions uninterrupted is of vital necessity for all of these people, for business trips, medical travel, pilgrimages, and for them to be able to maintain ties with relatives living abroad. Nor should we forget about the important role the airport could play in providing logistical support for humanitarian operations in Yemen. This matter has been discussed in this chamber on many occasions. The Mahan Air flight on 3rd of July should have been agreed with the official authorities. Nevertheless, we believe it's important to take note of the fact that this was a strictly humanitarian flight. We do not see this incident bringing about either human casualties nor any material damage, although it did result to an escalation in Yemen and in the region. This is particularly dangerous given the escalation we're seeing in the Persian Gulf. We call on all parties to reduce tensions, to exercise restraint, and we also call on them to partake in dialogue so as to settle their differences. We also call on the special envoy of the Secretary General, Mr. Hans Grunberg, to immediately join these efforts as part of his mandate. Mr. President, the Russian Federation has unswervingly supported and continues to support the full lifting of the sea, air and land blockade on Yemen, much like we've supported an end to all restrictions on supplies of foodstuffs, medicines and other basic necessities. And this in all districts of this Arab country without exception. This is necessary, inter alia, to improve the disastrous humanitarian situation in Yemen, which is already being complicated due to the outbreaks of hunger as well as infectious disease epidemics. And this against the backdrop of the dearth of basic necessities and the fact that the national health system is teetering on the brink of collapse. The situation is exacerbated by the hitherto unresolved issue of the detention of UN and humanitarian workers. Almost 20 million people in Yemen require humanitarian assistance to be provided on a depoliticized and non-discriminatory basis. Mr. President, the chronically unresolved nature of the Yemeni crisis, now well into its 2nd decade, is fertile ground for such problem situations arising. It heightens the risks of escalation on land and in the air, something we're seeing today. We call on all parties to recognize this and, going forward, to abstain from any unilateral steps which could result in the uncontrolled collapse of the situation, not just in Yemen, but in the Middle East as a whole, and this especially given the escalation we've seen over the last few months. We must acknowledge the fact that the only path to peace and stability in Yemen lies in direct and frank dialogue involving all of the leading political forces in the country, including the Houthis, with due regard for the fair interests of all the parties. We underscore that what is long overdue is the intensification of mediation under UN auspices, led by Special Envoy Hans Grunberg, and with the active participation of the vast number of Yemen's neighbors, including Saudi Arabia and Iran. This will be possible once the Yemeni parties sign a relevant roadmap. A roadmap which has been on the table since late 2023. We'd also like to remind you about the need to think long and hard about a renewal of the international legal framework for settling the Yemeni crisis, something that's the current framework having lost relevance. This includes Security Council Resolution 2216. We underscore our commitment to the sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of Yemen. Mr. President, without a doubt, we must factor in the broader regional context. We'd like to underscore the fact that there is no other game in town. There is only the political and diplomatic path towards the settlement of the escalation prompted by the US and Israeli aggression against Iran. We hope that negotiations will continue building on agreements entered into by Washington and Tehran with the assistance of Pakistan, Qatar, and other countries in the region as part of the Islamabad Memorandum. We call on Security Council members to concentrate on creating conditions conducive to diplomatic efforts, as well as to abstain from making any sudden moves, as well as from issuing assessments that are not objective. I thank you.